Hey everyone, Thomas from Broad Street Hockey here with Ryan Gilbert from also Broad Street Hockey. Ryan, how's it going?
I'm doing good. Also, broadstreethockey.com. Check it out. It's our new website.
Yeah. So we thought with all the Laughton rumors swirling, there's like different matches that could be made between the Flyers and other teams that we thought it would just be easy just to break down um, realistic landing spots for Laughton.
Yeah, like we've seen the Leafs, the Jets as the two main teams, but like the Capitals coming up recently is kind of crazy. Some other teams could definitely use some center depth. I mean, Lawton's the type of guy that we've talked about it. Like any team could probably use a guy like him going into the playoffs. So could be a bunch of potential landing spots here.
Yeah, like a third liner on a decent team, like that's what everyone's looking for. That could play center or wing, kills penalties, all that good stuff that we know, obviously, from watching him for so long. There's obviously a good market for him because obviously, and I think you wrote about it on broadstreethockey.com. Check it out. That like the market for a player like Laughton is definitely shrinking. It's players that might not be moving. Of course, we're hearing Brock Nelson's name more and more at the top of trade boards, but for a team that wants a cheap option that's also tied up for another year because obviously his contract is through next season at the $3 million cap hit, that it's a solid option, and teams will probably pay a decent premium for a player like that can just fill a role and they don't have to worry about it. Like I said, forget it player.
Yeah, exactly. And they know what the price is. The price has been a first round pick plus for forever now, it seems, since Briere took over. So yeah, if the Flyers could offer that now with where they're at, obviously everyone expected a big fire sale last year, but being in a playoff spot, they wanted to give the guys, fight for it, maybe make the playoffs. But now playoffs aren't exactly a possibility. So, Laughton and Risto are both out there. But yeah, Laughton is definitely the main guy because, yeah, you mentioned Brock Nelson is one of the centers out there. Casey Middlestat, but that's more of like a upgrade for the Avalanche. There's really like no one out there even better than Laughton. So a first round pick might be realistic at this deadline.
Yeah, so we've set that there's been a certain price asked by the Flyers of a first round pick. So it does seem, in recent reports have been basically whoever offers the first round pick, whatever year first, is going to get him. So there's that price, the type of player he is. So now let's play a little bit of a puzzle put togetherer and kind of go through some teams. Is there a team that you want to kind of focus on first? Like, is there really a front runner that you really see with that could really divvy up the assets for a player like Laughton?
I don't really know if there's a front runner right now. I don't know if we would just want to start with the Capitals because that's the freshest one. I know,
Yeah.
like I didn't actually listen to it, but I read your blog on it and the transcription where like Friedman just threw out Laughton's name as a potential third line center option for the Capitals because Scott Laughton, like we just said, is like the only guy out there that could do that. And I do wonder if how he would feel about going to play for a rival, and if that's something the Flyers would even do, and if they would maybe turn the screws a little bit and maybe get a first round pick plus a second or like something a little bit more to have him go down to Washington and haunt them for another year.
Yeah, so the Capitals have been reported, and Daily Faceoff's Frank Saravelli had a little like matchmaking thing, and they put a specific trade scenario that'd be the 2026 first from the Caps going to Philly for Laughton, which is a pretty kind of like Laughton, a set and forget it player that is just like that's a deal that could probably realistically happen. And with the Caps, it makes sense because Lars Eller's playing that third line role right now, and if you bump him down to the fourth, then you kind of set it a little bit better, and then you have younger guys like Protest is looking pretty well. Maybe a Mangiapane would play on Laughton's wing, like kind of bounce off one other, little crash and bang. I think, I think the fit's really there for the Caps. Obviously U.S. geography better than I do. Would Laughton have to move?
I mean, yeah, he would have to move. It would be like a
okay.
2 or 3 hour Amtrak
It's,
ride down there. Yeah,
okay.
he would have to
easy.
move. Like, yeah, even if
Easy.
I feel like the only team he wouldn't have to move is maybe the Devils, but like, yeah, he would still probably
But
move
that
there.
would still be like an hour and a half, and
Yeah, it's like an
probably
hour
right
hour on the train.
North Jersey.
Yeah, it's Central North
Jeez,
Jersey, whatever you want to call
miserable.
it there. So, but yeah, that's interesting. I would like the Capitals pick next year because I don't know. I'm not a big believer in the Capitals this year. Sure, Ovi's going for the record, but
Yeah.
if they get next year's first round pick, maybe it's like top 10 protected in case the Capitals do bottom out. Like I could see that being in the 15 to 20 range next year.
Yeah, if it's not protected at all, then I bet they do protection, like top 10 protected,
Mhm.
just because of that worry. And like Mangiapane and Jacob Chikrin are free agents at the end of the year. I think there's other ones too. Um, Charlie Lindgren, I think, is one. But yeah, there's definitely like a team could shift, and then suddenly you don't have that depth that is being relied upon so heavily right now. So yeah, so that's the Caps. And then let's move on to another option that I think is probably pretty realistic, and not to name him so often, but Frank Sterling mentioned um, on a separate podcast that Jets, the Winnipeg Jets, have apparently offered already a second round pick for Laughton's services. That's a team that is really, really, really shallow at center. Like we talk about teams, like they'd make the Flyers kind of like, oh, that's a little rough out there. Vladimir Mastikov's their second line center. That's all you kind of have to say. So Lawton could like probably have the biggest role on a playoff team if he really has strives for that in Winnipeg.
And the Jets kind of already have someone like that in Adam Lowry, so, like, bringing Lawton in to add to that might be
Yeah.
what I don't know if they're looking to duplicate it or if it'd be something where it multiplies together, like, I don't know there, but it
Mhm.
is interesting because it would be Winnipeg's, pick in 2026 because they do not have a second round pick, in this year's draft, and I don't know.
That would suck.
A second round pick from a team that's gonna be good, the team that has Connor Hellebuck, Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor, they're gonna be good. Like, I don't want to get a second round pick from, maybe if it's 2 seconds, a second and a third, a second and a prospect, like something
Mhm.
could work there, but I don't know. I don't think Winnipeg is up there as much as maybe Toronto is.
Yeah, yeah. Winnipeg do have all their first, so that's definitely an option if they kind of want to up the ante and up the price and commit. And especially it's a we've talked about it about Rista lining because that's also another target and landing spot for the defenseman there. But Winnipeg needs term on deals. They're not going to get rentals or else they're just going to leave. I don't think a rental's ever stayed there. Maybe Niederreiter is one. Like, yeah, and like
Didn't Nemestikov just like re-sign a contract and say how much he loves playing
he
there?
did.
Yeah, so
Yeah, but like if
there's some
guys can
crazy
stay
people.
there. Yeah, got Europeans basically.
Yeah.
But like they need players that are under contract more than anything, and they're not gonna give up a first to really get that rental again. Like a Kevin Hayes or whatever. Remember that?
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think with Winnipeg it's interesting, but again, you said out Lowry, there's like it could be kind of overkill with that type of player. But yeah, I think maybe out of anything in Canada, a homecoming for Lawton in Toronto is probably most likely, right?
Yeah, I agree, and, like, I could see the Jets going for someone like Brock Nelson. They have, like, 10 million in cap space.
Yeah.
He's more of the second line center they need, but, yeah, I think if Lawton gets traded, it will be Toronto. Obviously, the homecoming there. He grew up around Ontario, somewhere there, and
Oakville.
the GTA Oakville, of
See,
course, Oakville, the
that
Oakville Oaks.
like 45 minutes outside of the city.
Okay,
There
yeah,
you
yeah.
go.
So he probably still has some family there. I mean, he has a newborn, so maybe that'd
Yeah.
be good for him. And the Leafs have to go for it. They have to go for it every year. Like that's just what they have to do. But they don't have a first round pick
Mhm.
this year, no second round pick next year. So we've talked
Ooh.
about it before. Me, you, and J. Russ talked about it. Maybe they would go for
Mhm.
a roster player, which is kind of interesting because I wonder if the Flyers have a preference between like a first round pick or a first round level prospect. And it would have to be someone that they like and fits their system, whatever they're trying to do. But I do wonder if the Flyers would pull the trigger easier for a Fraser Minton or an Easton Cowan than they would for,
Mhm.
a late first round pick.
Yeah, and I'm sure I wouldn't know exactly what the valuation of between like the Leafs 2026 first round pick compared to Fraser Minton. I doubt it's kind of similar. Um, but yeah, they might see like, oh well, we would draft a player similar to that anyways, and he's already developed and he's already gone through junior hockey. He's playing his first season of pro hockey right now. That it would be kind of accelerating a little bit. Maybe it might not be the perfect player or the ceiling that you want, that you could get with that 2026 first, but it's a player that could more likely would fit the timeline, right? That would, I think he's 20 right now, right? Just turning 21, maybe later soon. Um, that that's a player that can grow with like Luchenko and Bonk and Barkey, and you're already like suddenly you're developing a player that and waves of players that then become like can really help support Michkov and everything that he's doing. So yeah, it would be interesting if they target a prospect too. Like even at Winnipeg, like a Colby Barlow, I think has been on the market. He's a left winger, not really playing well as an overager in OHL. He would kind of be a throw in for me. But yeah, that'd be interesting. Let's move on to another team that has been kind of linked around with some players, but again, they're super quiet with what they do. You don't really hear a lot about what the Tampa Bay Lightning are up to around the deadline. Of course, they're not going anywhere. Jake Gensel has easily replaced Steven Stamkos and everything that he did, and has been better. Hedman's not getting younger, and Kucherov's not getting younger. Vasilevsky's dominant, as still dominant, still probably will be one of the best goaltenders in the playoffs. So do you think the Lightning are in a position to invest in a player like Laughton? Again, cheap, so they don't have to worry about that. Under contract, they like that because obviously they ponied up for Tanner Jeannot. That do you think that's kind of a player that they would look out for, and if they do, they want to kind of that be their move for the deadline?
I think it really could be because, like you said, the Lightning do kind of move quietly. They always try to make these little additions, and they get players that play above their ceiling. Like Brendan Hagel's having an amazing season down there. He's
Dude,
developed pretty well.
remember Luke Shen won a cup? Like
Yeah,
that's all you have
Luke
to
Shen
say.
went down there.
Luke
Like,
Shen won a cup there.
yeah,
Like,
I mean, yeah, like you said, they're always going to be around. They have Vasilevsky, Hedman, Point, Kucherov, Gensel now. Like they have
mhm.
$5 million in cap space. No first round pick this year. Have a first round pick next year. Have 2 seconds this year, with which are the Kings and Toronto's. So, but yeah, this is another team that probably would be a first round pick next year, top 10 protected or so. They're an injury or two away from bottoming out. So I would like their pick more than, I guess, maybe not more than like the Leafs or the Jets. They're all kind of in that.
Yeah, it'd be kind of even, right?
Yeah, it's not like Florida or Carolina or Dallas. It's like going to be late 20s. So I could definitely see a lot in blue, whether it's Toronto blue or Tampa blue.
Yeah, like I'm just checking if they. I know Isaac Howard's a decent prospect, but I think he's like destined to win a Hobie Baker and then immediately join the Lightning and suddenly become like Brandon Hagel light. Yeah, I don't like any of their prospects. So yeah, so it'd be just like straight picks, and which is fine. It's like maybe you're taking on. Yeah, I don't even know like their AHL team really. Like they're not going to give up Connor Geeky for Lawton. Yeah, like I think the Lightning would just be purely a draft pick, and then just that's what you get. And honestly, it wouldn't be terrible because, again, like you said, like they're one injury away. Like suddenly, if Kucherov is out and Gensel is out for a couple months next season, then you're probably not talking about a playoff team. Then where do you go from there? And then you have Lawton, Nick Paul, and Zemgus Girgensons all hanging out together. Which sounds like a draft lottery team.
I do think Geeky could potentially be an interesting name. Maybe he's a little bit better than what they would get. Maybe the Flyers would add like a second or third or some sort of take a salary back if they want to get someone like that. I forgot about him. I was looking at their Puckpedia, and he's not in the NHL, so I did not see him there.
Yeah, because he was the main return in the Sergachev trade, right? And then let me see what he's doing up. Because he's a big boy.
Yeah, he's got 12 points in 49 games with the Lightning this year, 3 points in 7 AHL games. So like, he hasn't really done too much. I'm not sure how much of a chance he's got in there in Tampa.
Yeah, I do wonder if that's a realistic option. But would you like Geeky would be investing in like I would do Geeky for Lawton straight up.
Would you be
Like that'd
geeking
be
out
a
about that though?
I'd be geeking out about that. I'd be contacting everyone over in Winnipeg. I started playing junior hockey. Anyways, so yeah, Lightning I think are a real option. It'll be interesting for him to go there, and I think again they operate super quiet. Another team that I saw a little bit connected to Lawton, which also makes sense, and they're kind of Lightning esque because they're always just hanging around. No one really thinks about them as big deadline buyers. They're just getting kind of on periphery, and then they do their business in the offseason. Is the LA Kings? Um, they're in a position in a weaker Pacific Division. Vegas might not be the Vegas that is a monster, and Edmonton, unless they get a player that can play next to Darnell Nurse, is pretty weak defensively. Um, do you think that the Kings are kind of an option for Lawton? Again, that does seem like a kind of a fit after Kopitar, Deneau. Then you have Lawton just hanging out in the bottom six, just being like that Trevor Lewis type on those good LA Kings teams.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about them until we were talking before this, and you were like, "Oh, maybe the Kings could be an option," and they could. Looking at their depth here, I mean, they have Byfield playing second line center, Kopitar, Deneau
Mm-hmm.
third line. Like
Right.
he might be like fourth line for them or a fourth line winger even because their third line right now is Fogle and Trevor Moore on the wing. So maybe they wouldn't
Yeah.
pony up a first round pick for him. They have their first in this year and next year. No second round pick this year. So, but yeah, I could see the Flyers. I could see Lawton want to go to LA. Obviously, the Flyers have a relationship with them. Maybe not. No, Briere
Mm-hmm.
traded for Sean Walker. So yeah, that could definitely be something where he
Yeah.
goes back to revisit there. So yeah, I mean, they're definitely, like you said, another team to not keep an eye out for, but don't be shocked if the Flyers do something with them.
Yeah, and they have decent prospects. I don't think they're going to really move on because obviously Deneau and Kopitar are only getting older. They're trying to build around a core of Byfield and Brent Clark and other players that are kind of coming up. Liam Greentree was their recent first round pick. That's absolutely killing it for Windsor in the OHL. Scoring like a goal a game. He's insane. But yeah, like there's other options like a Francesco Pinelli. I remember liking him in his draft year. He's kind of in the AHL. Second year, 21 points in 48 games, but has already improved off of his rookie season. He's from around where I'm from, so there's a little bias there.
It's a fun name, Francesco. I'll take that.
Francesco Pinelli. Oh
Yeah.
my God, Joe would have a field day with
Oh
that. But
gosh.
yeah, I think there's definitely options. Like I think when it comes to Lawton, well, first, are there any other teams that you kind of could think of that would really benefit from Lawton?
No, I threw out Vegas to you earlier,
Yeah.
but then I looked it up. They don't have a first round pick until 2027, so probably not Vegas.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
They're always
But
going
yeah,
for it.
yeah, and it seems like they'd aim higher than Lawton, maybe.
Mhm.
Like they might just get Brock Nelson just because for some
Yeah.
reason.
Why not?
Yeah. But yeah, I think when it comes to I think when it comes to move for Lawton, teams are probably just looking to really solidify their depth, and that would be the team. And those teams that we've named are kind of the teams that can go for it and probably want to invest um, in a player that is again under contract through next season, but also wouldn't be a detriment to your team. But also they're in a position that the time is kind of now. Like I don't think that the Devils are really going for it. I don't think that, and watch out that like he's just gonna go to the Devils for some reason. But like Leafs, Kings, Lightning, Jets, and Capitals are kind of all in this middle of like this year could be like it could all fall out from us. Like we need to solidify something because that could be the difference in the playoffs, and we want to make like this statement in the postseason rather than just be out for another year and suddenly it's a wasted year and wasted opportunity that they had.
Yeah, I'm just one more team maybe is the Avs. I know
Oh,
last year we traded Walker to them. They
okay.
they need a second line center. Middlestats their second line center. Like getting Lawton to be their third line center would be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Knights and everyone else, they're going to be shooting higher, but there's a relationship there. Do they have a first round pick? Let me look. They have 2 seconds this year
They
and then a first next year. So, but they're a team
okay, so they
that's
have their
always
first
kind of
next
there.
year.
So
Oh yeah, we obviously have their first round. The Flyers do.
Yeah. So yeah, could get the Avs first round pick again, but yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like Lawton's a fit for any playoff team. But yeah, I don't think they're going to trade him in division. Like that's why I don't think the
Mhm.
Capitals are real. Like I think I think it's going to be Leafs, Tampa, or someone out west.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that makes sense. They kind of want to separate themselves from being emotional when he eventually returns to Philly. The real marker is look at teams that the Flyers aren't playing again.
Oh,
Maybe at home.
they play
That'd
Tampa.
be like a
They play Tampa at
okay.
home the Thursday after the deadline. That's the
That'd be
only
great.
team out of these, and then they go down to
Didn't they play the
Tampa.
Leafs?
They go down to
Or they're in
Tampa
in
on.
maybe
They're in
okay,
Toronto on the 25th.
in Toronto. So
Yeah,
yeah. So Toronto, you wouldn't have to have the emotional comeback until
so
or
next year.
homecoming, the emotional homecoming until next year. So you
Yeah.
could let everything chill out. But yeah, I think that's about covers it because I think we really kind of went through and combed through all the options that the Flyers should have and teams that should be wanting a player like Laughton, and now it's just up to them to
Mhm.
actually solidify the deal and invest and do this. Do you think there's a possibility? Let's just end on this. Do you think there's a possibility that Laughton doesn't move at all?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's 50-50 right now. I'm going back and forth on if Lawton and Aristo is more likely to be moved by the deadline. Like, yeah, I think there's a decent
Mhm.
chance he's not moved because, like, as we keep saying, they could move him in the offseason if they don't get that first round pick. So, yeah, I think there's definitely a chance that he's still a Flyer on March 8th.
Yeah, it'd just be whatever team pays the price. And again, another situation of Flyers just waiting and holding fast on getting their price. You can read more of this at broadstreethockey.com. Both Gilbert and I write extensively there. Listen to our podcasts on Apple, Spotify, everything like that. Subscribe, like, and subscribe down below. I like to point downwards, but I'm not pointing at you. I'm sorry. That's how it's just laid out. Like and subscribe below. 500. We hit the 500. Now we're aiming for 1,000. Let's get to it. Any parting words for you, Gilbert?
No, I'm just glad to see Hosers is back. You guys recording this week?
Yeah, we're recording tonight, and that just dates the episode. But yeah,
Awesome.
we're recording.
Awesome.
We'll have some upcoming fun guests that we already have kind of in the hopper. But yeah, should be fun. Trade deadline season. We love it.